Today is April 22nd, 2025. My name is Bobby Goodman, and I'm here interviewing Neil Goldberg about his days at the Columbian Club.
Okay.
Neil, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let's just jump right in here, Neil. Tell me, when did you become a member of the Columbian Club, and how long were you a member there?
I grew up in Dallas, and I was not really a country club guy. And I married Lisa and joined in the early 90s, maybe 93 or 4. She was kind of a country club girl from Fort Worth, and so she decided to join. We decided to join because they had a special, and guys my age in their 40s, or late 30s, were busy with their families, and we didn't necessarily have the income stream for frivolous money spent. So I spent it elsewhere, but Lisa talked me into joining, and the Columbian Club had a special for $5,000 initiation fee. Then I think we got about 40 or 50 members about my age, friends that I grew up with, and it was a fun experience. So that was how I got started in the early 90s, and now, 30 years later, 35 years later, it's gone.
Yeah, that's true. When you joined, so relatively a little bit later than some of the other people that may have joined, what did that membership kind of look like to you? You were a little bit older, I think, than some of the earlier members, but what did that membership look like age-wise, family-wise?
Most of the members that I knew were, my friends' parents. That was the majority. It seemed like an older club, but, their parents and the kids joined, and they were my friends. I didn't necessarily join when I was in my 20s and 30s, but several of my friends did, and they took up golf. I was more of a basketball, baseball, and football AZ8 kind of guy, so.
Did you say that maybe about 40 people joined about the same time that were your friends?
Yeah, that was
Wow.
an influx of a lot of guys my age. We went to college together. We went to Hillcrest High School together, and a few guys moved to town that were in that same 35 to 45 age group, and that made it a lot of fun.
So, and so many people that we have interviewed in previously, they were legacies. Their family had been members of the Columbian Club. Was your any other family members at the club
No,
before
not
y'all
really.
joined?
Just my friends and family, and I was an invited guest. The club used to have summer camps. I think once or twice when I was a kid, I went to a summer camp that you didn't have to be a member to join the camp, and yeah, it was a lot of fun back then with friends and people I knew, basically.
And the reason that you may have joined may be different than others. You mentioned that Lisa had an influence because that was her background in Fort Worth. So, what was was it the friendly friendships, or your that made you join the club, or did anti-Semitism ever come into play with your decision
Maybe
to
just
join?
a little bit. I was the most familiar with the Columbian Club just because that was my group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
But the clubs back then in the 90s still did not have very many Jewish members. I was friendly with some non-Jewish guys, so if I went to Brook Hollow or Dallas Country Club, Northwood even, they had no Jewish members, so it wasn't even like it was on my radar. I didn't think it was, it wasn't an anti-Semitic act, but you knew it was there. That's just our generation. That's how we grew up. It was kind of accepted. You have a Jewish club. It was really very exclusive, because it was Jewish.
Right. So, while you're at the club, tell me a little bit about some of the activities that you and Lisa, maybe your family, were involved with. What did you do at the club?
I took up golf a little bit. I never really had a regular game. I'm not a regular golfer. I was still pretty busy at the J playing, softball and basketball and flag football and stuff. But I enjoyed playing a little golf and a little tennis actually at the club. They had a good tennis program, and Lisa, that's one of the reasons she wanted to join. For the tennis. She's a great tennis player.
Any social activities that y'all partake in?
Yes, that the holidays were the best things about the Columbian Club. Even growing up, as an invited guest, Mother's Day, July 4th, Valentine's Day as we got older, Labor Day. Those holidays, just to go for brunch or dinner, and Wednesday night fried chicken, and the Sunday night dinners were great.
Right. Your kids involved at the? Did they spend time at the Columbian Club?
Well, my kids, I had them when I was a little older, so yeah, we did. They were 5 to 12 back then, so just the holidays, it made it so easy. Like for a Mother's Day brunch, and I really loved to go there for Mother's Day brunch because Lisa's family would come from Fort Worth, and so you get a free pass, when your father-in-law and mother-in-law come in for Mother's Day. I got to play a round of golf after we had Mother's Day lunch because of Lisa's father was in town, so that was always nice.
Let's talk a little bit about your involvement at the club. Were you involved in any committees, or what was your involvement at the club?
Well, I got pretty involved in the club as I knew there were difficulties, and they were talking about redoing the golf course. So I got on the board of directors, and as one thing led to another, I was busy as a board member at the Federation, at the JCC, at Sheriff Israel, and it just seemed natural to be on the board of something, and the club needed some help, so I spent a little time and became an officer, and eventually, as the club was failing, I was the guy who brought it down. I was the president as things really cratered for the Columbian Club.
Well, you say you brought it down, but I mean,
Yeah,
they had
I'm
issues.
yeah.
I know you're. Were those? Was that tough? Was that kind of a tough time for the club members and for you?
It
Tell us a
was.
little bit
It
about
was because I came from the ilk of not being a golfer. And there was always that push and pull between the golfers and the social members and, kind of the fringe members that weren't avid golfers. And so, of the board members, most of them were the avid golfers, and they thought the course was so great that we were going to build membership, and it just wasn't happening at that time. Whenever we had to have an assessment, a lot of members quit, and people just did not want to do that at that time. I've got my theories as to why, and when I was president, and you really knuckle down and you see where you're spending money and where we were losing money, it was really because of the food service, which the Columbian Club always had great food. And it cost a lot of money, and to run a kitchen like that, if you have an unbelievable Sunday brunch and a Sunday dinner, you need to have beef stew on Monday and Tuesday night. And the Columbian Club was just not a neighborhood club enough for people to come on Monday nights, Tuesday nights. It was really just kind of Sunday and Wednesday. That was about the main service. Other than that, there were lunches for golfers, business lunches, but it wasn't enough to really run a productive and efficient kitchen. Country clubs in general have, they're known for having a full pour of alcohol. They're known for having big portions and really nice food. And, to run a restaurant, they say, I learned this as I was, treasurer and then president. Food costs, you can run a really nice restaurant for food costs at, 25 to 50% of your cost. Well, at a country club, food costs were up there around 60 and 70%. And, being the Jewish club, Jews always eat two-thirds and drink one-third. Well, at a non-Jewish club, they drink two-thirds and eat one-third. And, they get a full pour of alcohol and they're making a lot more money. And that's what really brought the club under, was the financial end of it, that we didn't have enough traffic all week long to support the golf course, support the kitchen, and the fine food that we really had. We had good food,
Yeah,
and
the food,
but we didn't want to pay for it.
Right. That's right. I mean, that is the highlight of many people, of the food at the Columbian Club was second to none.
Yes.
And I see where you're coming from there. Yeah, from a financial standpoint, it didn't make a lot of sense. So you became a member later in the 90s. How long were you involved? How long did you stay?
Well, I stayed till about, they changed names. They did all, the Columbian Club. I think as I left my presidency, we still hadn't voted to change the name from the Columbian Club to the Honors Club. That was under Charles Lasney's watch. And but that was really the end of it, when they tried to rebrand, make it a golf club, and lost a lot of members at that time as well. And then eventually sold the club. That was, I don't know, was that 2006, maybe 2007, right. Something like that.
Did you join with a lot of friends? I guess they were a lot of more childhood friends.
Yeah.
Did those friends stay through the tougher times as well? And are you still friends with a bunch of those people today?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they some of them stayed, some of them left. The club, it was still a highlight of the club for holidays. Mother's Day, July 4th.
Right.
Those were really the big ones. But Sunday brunch was big too. And yeah, it was a lot of the same people that I grew up with in AZA and high school and college. I went to college with a lot of the people, and then as people that didn't go to UT in Austin like I did, came from back to Dallas, and just got to be friendly with a lot of different people.
Was the club for you, Neil? Was it there a business aspect to it, or was that a getaway?
No, it was not business at all for me. Mm-hmm. I was in the metal recycling business. Wasn't real conducive to country club life, but.
Why don't you, if you will, can you share a kind of a memorable story about the Columbian Club that is top of mind? Do you have anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I thought about it. The only really good memories are of the camaraderie, playing golf out there or tennis, and coming for the 4th of July was always a highlight, just because they had the fireworks for really the whole city of Carrollton. And you'd sat on the lawn and looked across the way, the lake right in the middle, is where the fireworks came up, and it was a little safer that way with the fire department, and it was just a great show, and brought all the kids, and it was just a great scene.
You alluded to why, but and maybe there's more. Why do you think Why do you think the Columbian Club closed?
Well, my theory was always based on the fact that country club life is really a luxury. And I thought that Jews were not willing to do that. The Jews were newer money. It wasn't old money, old oil money or things like that, where it's kind of frivolous to throw it away. And I think the Jewish families, I know me, why I didn't grow up that way, is just because there wasn't that disposable income. And you try to get something for your money. I mean, I still do that myself, more than I need to. And I think that's really why it failed, because when things came up where you had to build infrastructure and repair an old building or the golf course, and we're going to do a $5,000 assessment, people just were up in arms about it. The older generation didn't want to do that. And it was just, that was my philosophy, that it was more of such a luxury that there wasn't a critical mass of people that wanted to spend that money that way.
Do you think a Columbian Club could exist today?
Yes, for sure. A lot of the members that I grew up with belong to other clubs now that took them in, and they're happy paying that money. And now their families, the 20 and 30-year-olds, they're willing to pay that money too. It's just a different world where the good clubs are successful and making money now. Even if it's not a neighborhood club, you can still, it's a great getaway. And Dallas has grown so much for that particular area, it would still be attractive for a lot of people to come to the club for lunches and even dinners besides just Wednesday and Sunday.
Right. Are you familiar with the New Columbian Club?
The restaurant bar?
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Have you been there?
A couple of times. It's very nice, yeah.
I understand they have some memorabilia and maybe some menu items there. Is that correct?
They do. The Parmesan cheese bagels, that's good stuff for sure.
Absolutely. So before I ask my last question, Neil, is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like to share about your memories at the Columbian Club?
Well, I always have regrets because I think when I was president, we were really going through a difficult time, with hiring people, and there was really the two factions between the golfers and the not just social members, but the golfers like I was, when the rest of the guys on the board were really avid golfers. And it just became very contentious. And I think we had about a 5-year window there that we just missed on. If people hadn't left the club and been so contentious, and we made it through that 4 or 5 year period, then the guys our age would have had the wherewithal to step up to the plate. They joined other clubs for, $50 and $80 and $100,000 initiation fees, which the Columbian Club could never get those initiation fees. And that's where you put money away, and you can afford to make improvements to your golf course. And we just didn't have the membership and the critical mass that could get that done. We had about, I think 350 members at one time, and you really need 500-600 members to really make a club like that go.
Right. So, my final question is this: when I mention the word the Columbian Club, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I just think of the old clubhouse, and a little bit. You pull in that parking lot, and there was in the concrete there was the old phoenix, the bird right there in the parking lot, and it brings a little smile to my face for sure, because it was a country club to enjoy yourself at, and most of the time you did, except when went to the board of directors meetings, and it was just that was not a very fun time.
I got it. Well, first of all, thank you very much for sharing your memories of the Columbian Club. Appreciate it, Neil.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.